Our next session, What We Eat Matters, the missing ingredient in climate action. Please welcome to the stage founder and president, Support+Feed, Maggie Baird, and executive director, Project Drawdown, climate and environmental scientist, Dr. Jonathan Foley.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going today? Pretty good? Excellent. So we're going to have a really great conversation here today. I'm John Foley from Project Drawdown, and I have the pleasure of interviewing and talking to Maggie Baird, who's becoming a real hero of mine and somebody I'm really, really excited to share her story with all of you today. But we're going to be talking about food. And so why is food a big deal when it comes to climate change? It's a huge deal. The food system emits about 1/4 to 1/3 of all the greenhouse gases on Earth today. It's also the biggest contributor to biodiversity loss, the biggest user of water, the biggest user of land. So in many ways, the future of our planet is going to be shaped in large part by what we eat and how we grow it. And so one of the levers we might have to pull in the future, of course, is diets. And you can't think about diets without thinking about the especially important role of animal agriculture, because animal products just use a lot more resources than plant-based diets. So we have to kind of talk about that and talk, honestly and frankly and earnestly about how we think about diets, its links to the environment, and culture and health and everything else. But one kind of factoid that's just to keep in mind maybe is beef, for example. It's a pretty big emitter of greenhouse gases, it turns out, at least the way we grow it now. And it turns out about 1 pound of beef takes about 100 pounds of greenhouse gas to produce. Compare that to coal. We burn 1 pound of coal, it releases 2 pounds of CO2. So in our daily lives, things like beef probably emit greenhouse gases more than anything else we'll touch in our daily lives on a kind of pound for pound basis. So that's kind of part of our setting the stage for this conversation today of why does diet matter in the big picture of climate change? And I'm so pleased to have Maggie Baird here with us this morning. Maggie is the founder of an organization called Support+Feed, which we're going to dive into and learn all about. But some of you might have heard of her kids, maybe, I don't know. Just so happens, she's the mom of Billie Eilish and Finneas, who I think a lot of people in the audience will know too and enjoy. It's a whole musical and kind of incredible entertainment family. It's really a whole family business for all of you, which is really fun to hear about. So we're going to go on a journey today of music and entertainment and diets and the future of our planet in 17 minutes, apparently. So Maggie, big picture. Why do diets matter to you? How did, you have a very big perspective on all this, but maybe let's start with the top. What's the big picture perspective for you about how our diets and kind of what we eat kind of shapes the world around us?
Well, as you said, we've spent so much time, or many people have in the climate movement, focusing on fossil fuels, which of course is incredibly important, but overlooking this massive impact not only on greenhouse gases, but biodiversity loss, water, land, et cetera, which in many ways is one of the more controllable things we have in our life. Not to say it's simple, it's very complex, et cetera, but it's something that is within our power and also could lead to a world which would be better in so many ways. Food it's about the climate conversation and the climate crisis, but we have a massive food equity problem in our country, in our world. We have a health problem. And so my passion is working at the intersection of all of those. I started as a young person caring about the planet, I grew up in Western Colorado. It was beautiful, I loved nature, and I loved animals, and I became a plant-based eater very, very young. And then in 1981, I moved to New York City, and I saw an infographic about how much, I just want to go back actually, let's just say that was 1981. And by the way, I read Diet for a Small Planet in 1975. So this is how long we've known these things and we've been talking about these things. But I saw an infographic that talked about how much of the Amazon rainforest was being destroyed for McDonald's at the time. That was the metric they were using, McDonald's hamburgers. And gosh, was that a shock. And that's when I realized really so strongly the connection between our environment, what we would later deem the climate crisis, and what we eat. So that's where my passion started, and I think that in all the movements in the climate space, this is an exciting one. This is the potential to, change the way people live their lives, how healthy they are, the abundance of fruits and vegetables we can enjoy, the plants that we've yet to cultivate, and we sort of are facing a potential paradise of a world that we could live in. So I think of all the movements, it's maybe the most overlooked, but in many ways the most exciting and joy-filled one.
I love that, because the way you're talking about this is so cool, because you're pointing out that, yes, this is an environmental issue, it's a food security issue. There's 800 million people in the world who don't have food security, a lot even in this country. And then, of course, which you help address, but also a nutritional crisis in a lot of the world and all these things. And guess what? The solution is literally delicious. We can not only do this, oh God, we have to eat something terrible to solve these problems. Actually, it might be even better for us in so many multiple dimensions. And oh wow, we get 3 opportunities a day to fix it. What a pretty cool opportunity, you know? So tell me a little bit more about Support+Feed, this organization you founded, and I know some of your teams here in the audience too, so let's give a big shout out to Support+Feed. Check it out, they're doing really great work. So tell us about how this all gets started and what it does.
Well, Support+Feed was sort of born out of the pandemic, as many things were. We found ourselves, our family, home from a tour that did not happen, a tour that we had worked very hard to make as sustainable as possible in so many ways, including having all plant-based food for our crew, for 100 crew members 3 times a day, and many, many other sustainability measures. So we were very much on the path. And of course, I also am, by the way, I'm an avid cook and baker, and so food is just part of my love life, or my what do they call it? Your
love language.
Love
right?
language,
there you
thank
go.
you.
Yeah. Small acts
love
of
life
food.
is a little different. So it's part of my love language. And so when we came home from this tour, very quickly, I think just within a few days, Billy and I I was like, this is going to be so terrible. There's going to be, businesses are going to close, people are going to need food. Let's find a way to buy food and take it to people. And we purchased food from plant-based restaurants. Of course, we wanted to make the food as climate-friendly as possible and healthy as possible. And then we stepped into the world of food insecurity. And when we stepped into that world, I fully admit that I was incredibly ignorant. I knew about food insecurity, but I did not have a deep knowledge of the food inequity story of our country. And I saw what people were being fed in the food programs. They were receiving very not delicious meals, first of all, not nutritious meals, and certainly not planet-friendly meals. And we realized that big food organizations in general were not taking this opportunity to address the intersectionality of the mission. You might see an ad for a food organization that would say something like 40 meals for $1, your donation would make. Well, 40 meals for $1, I mean, right there, like, what does that mean people are being fed, and where is it coming from, and who's, And so that's when we launched Support+Feed into an actual nonprofit. By the way, with fully volunteer-led for a year and a half, we had a fully volunteer organization. And so our mission at that point really became defined that if we could support local community organizations that were already doing amazing work in communities to provide meals, which at the time were desperately needed and continue to be so, and make those meals restaurant quality, the kind of meal anyone would be honored to eat, delicious, plant-based. We could help so many systems at the same time, including a local economy, because we were purchasing those meals from small community businesses. And as we did this, we saw such incredible positive reactions. Yeah. And then we started to be asked, like, well, how can you help our community members, learn about what they're eating? So we started providing information, education about the health. I've heard people say, like, education is not the greatest word. It's really just information, inspiration, guidance about the health benefits. And we got such great feedback of people wanting to learn more. Why is this meal healthy? How can I improve my health? At the same time, we had a very, very active digital presence, which I think in the climate movement is urgently needed. I'm just going to take a little sideline to say that I think the climate movement really needs to step up to match the disinformation corporation movement, which relies heavily on influencers and advertising to spread a lot of false information and promote doubt and increase people's ability to stay on a path that is not climate friendly, if you will. So we launched a very active digital presence to reach a fan base. We say, you know, people came to the conversation for Billie because they knew we were connected to Billie, but they stayed for the planet. And so on this level, we could really reach people to talk about climate crisis and how what we eat is connected to the climate crisis, and feature climate scientists like you and plant-based chefs and also social justice activists, et cetera, to get people to understand what is the connection between all of those. So that's how we were born. We then had the opportunity when Billie went on tour in 2022. We grew in the first year to 4 cities very quickly, delivering meals, having these community conversations, supporting organizations. But in 2022, we expanded to 11 cities in the country where we have regular meal deliveries, regular programs of community conversations, cooking classes, et cetera. We delivered meals in over 40 cities, and we work in the UK and the EU with organizations there, have supported the work of Oz Harvest in Australia, in that case to add more plant-based meals to what they already so beautifully do. So that's where Support and Feed is now, 11 cities in the US and globally.
That's amazing. And one of the things I really love about your work, and maybe you could share kind of your perspective on this, but is the kind of positivity here. A lot of times I think in the past, I'll just speak for myself, but you know, when encountering, you know, the idea of people telling you to eat a vegan diet or something, you know, I grew up around a bunch of organic hippie farmers in rural New England when I was a little kid, and you know, they were feeding us the first generation of tofu, and it tasted awful, you know, right? And everybody remember carob? I mean, like, oh God, they turned off a whole generation of people on this kind of diet. But we came back eventually because, you know, hey, wait, plant-based can be delicious. It can be good for you. And kind of moving away from the finger wagging, you know, you're going to eat something you don't like kind of message to, hey, actually this can be delicious, can be plant forward, and also not shaming people as much. Just sort of making things positive and offering something new as opposed to taking something away. It's something I really admire about the way you do this, but also bringing people in through the love of music and of people they admire, like Billie and Finneas and others. How is that working for you? Is that something you've learned to kind of roll with and maybe be an example for others?
I think learn to roll with is the right word. I want to say that we do hear a lot of feedback in our world of like, don't force your plant-based diet on me, or don't try to make me eat differently. But I would like to point out that the industries of animal agriculture have been trying to convince us to eat those products for hundreds of years. Yeah. So it is a little bit unfair to sort of, you know, accuse, you know, a certain diet, a plant-based diet, of sort of trying to indoctrinate people when we in fact have been indoctrinated into another way of eating. So it's really trying to kind of break a lot of the stereotypes and myths. But you're right, you know, the idea of sort of, we want to take something away from you, that just doesn't fly with people. Food is culture. Food is love. Food is a lot of our identity. And it just plain doesn't work to kind of come in and say, you need to do this. For someone like me who sort of organically came to it, and it was somewhat easy because it was a deep belief, I realize that's just not true for other people. So with Support and Feed, we really try to meet people where they are. We ask people to start with eating one fully plant-based meal a day for 30 days. And we also offer support for that, recipes, guidance, and we explain to people that if 10,000 people in an arena on Billy's tour, or we also work with other artists such as Paramore, Blink-182, Metallica, if 10,000 people in an arena take a pledge to eat one plant-based meal a day for 30 days, that is 7 million gallons of water saved. And that is massive change. So helping the people understand, like, if you just take a little step, if you just think about this each day and make substitutions, make swaps, find some new foods you love, all of us together make a massive, massive impact. You can be part of a team. You can be part of a solution, and it doesn't really have to hurt. And we also help people understand the joy of this, right? Again, like, we kind of tend to grow up with a diet that's, you know, somewhat limited in what we eat, when in fact there's this expansive array of foods available to us. Some of them historic, you know, there's a historic precedent for this. And there are cultures who've been eating primarily plant-based diets really forever, until we've sort of, you know, influenced them into this more fast food way of eating.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of precedent of going back to nature, you know, people whose families have canned and pickled and lived off the land and eaten fruits and vegetables. So, you know, helping people experience the joy of fruits, vegetables, grains, delicious whole food, plant-based food. You know, everybody is welcome in this food journey, and everybody is a part of yes, we're all a part of the problem, we know that, but we are all a part of the solution. So that's, you know, that's how we embrace everyone.
That's so cool. And well, obviously too, you know, you can tap into kind of people's hearts as well as their minds through the love of music and entertainment. And your family is like incredible in that, but also you work across the whole music industry. You're mentioning a few of the other teams that you work with. How is that can play a role in addressing kind of the climate crisis in our culture, of like helping connect people through that experience and that shared love of music and entertainment, for example?
I love the question, first of all, because I was always a climate person, environmental person. But when I stepped into the music industry in support of my family, I was a little mind blown at the waste and the inefficiencies in the music industry. So we sort of set about right from the beginning to kind of ask questions, and why is this way, and what is this made of, and how can we do this better? And I've seen unbelievable progress in the music industry in the 8 years that we've been there. And that speaks to the fact that I think that everybody has a role to play wherever you find yourself, in whatever job, company, corporation, industry you are, looking around where you are and what changes you can make almost immediately, or by asking questions and motivating change, is so empowering, and everyone can do it. All I did was ask questions. Can this be better? Can we do this better? And Billie empowered her whole team to do the same. Please come to us with the best choice for vinyl, the best choice for merch. What are always the most sustainable options? And I think that is really important. And so with Support and Feed as a part of that, we've been able to have arenas that Billie plays at have more plant-based food options for the fans who come to the tours. We have the fully plant-based catering for the crew. We also work on the transportation side. How do we get fans there, et cetera. We work with Paramore, all these artists I talked about. The one-to-one fan experience is unmatched. You know, you've got all these people who love an artist, who love, and by the way, all those artists I mentioned come at it from slightly different places. Some of them come at it from the food insecurity, food equity side. Some come at it from the climate side. Some come at it from the clean jobs side. Some come at it from the health side. And there is a place in this story of food and climate for everyone and for every fan. So that has been a really empowering strategy for us to reach fans, get them to take that pledge, get them to feel a part of the strategy.
Very cool. Well, we only have a little time left, but so you're saying you're going to be in Quebec City this weekend, I think, or next week, with Billie kicking off her world tour. So what's next with this next phase of this journey?
Well, the world tour will include Support and Feed at every stop, and many environmental organizations that will be featuring at every show. And, you know, just trying to move the world to understand that what we eat matters, and that we're all part of the solution, and that this beautiful earth that we are on offers us the most bountiful, gorgeous food, and we need to not only enjoy it, but make sure that all of our communities are well fed.
Well, that's kind of awesome. Can we just give Maggie a big round of applause for all the great work that she's doing here? Thank you so much.
Thank you
It's
so
awesome.
much. Thank you.
Thank
all.
you.